Right, hello everyone and welcome back to Pop Culture Chill Out. We've had a bit of a break, so much so that Damien has completely changed form now. We welcome to the podcast, he's going to be a new member, Ellis. Welcome, pal. Damien sends his apologies today. He's not about because he's moving house. He sends his apologies, but he'll be back with a vengeance. But we are going to, this new form, 3 cameras. We also have a man who knows what he's doing and knows what he's talking about. In Ellis, just introduce yourself to the millions of viewers that we have across the world.
Millions, yeah. So I am Ellis. I am 23 years old. I work.
He's the youngster of the crew.
I am, yeah, by a significant way. You old bean.
Yeah.
So I work in film and TV, so I feel like I can bring an extra edge.
Yeah.
To the podcast, a bit of behind the scenes, some expertise.
Nice.
No, I haven't got a clue what I'm talking about, but
the thing is, we do love film.
I'm here,
and yeah,
I love film.
The reason we're here is to talk about film, talk about TV, and everything else in between. Everything we get into in between, and we're now on our kind of third iteration. First iteration, nice and just a bit of audio, bit of video. Now the second time, but now Ellis is coming to help us. Really kind of push the podcast as to a new level, but it will still be us. So if you don't like us talking,
if you don't like me,
if you don't like Ellis, if you don't like Damien, this is the episode for you. I'm sure he'll be watching this as well. We send our love, and he'll be back on the next episode. Today we are reviewing, our main reviews are Monkey Man, and we saw last night Civil War.
We did.
There'll be a couple of bits and bobs, 2-minute reviews we call it. Okay, 2-minute review. You get 2 minutes. You got to review it in 2 minutes because they're not one of our big ones. Anything else that comes up, sometimes we have like a topic or anything like that. But today, the big thing was just making sure that we got things set up. And my word, that took a while to actually get set up.
It was such an easy setup. We just set the cameras up, set the mics up, bang, straight away.
Yeah. So while we were doing our, this is our first 2024 episode.
Oh, is it? Wow.
Yeah.
You've been slacking.
Yeah. And I was actually going to show you my top 10 of 2023, which will probably be on the next episode. But considering that we're using all of our phones as cameras at the moment, we can't do that.
My phone's with a diet something.
Yeah.
So
that lovely wide shot, that one there, that lovely wide shot is going to be not really available in about half an hour's time.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went to go and see Civil War last night. We took Ellis's uncle. Sorry, my girlfriend's dad. Ellis is my girlfriend's cousin, and I was really excited. But I was warned because I think I should talk about something that I already know and try and say it's my own thing. But I was warned that it wasn't very political in terms of like picking sides or making you think about that. However, I still had this kind of feeling that I was going to expect something for me to think about. And I think that might play into how I feel about the film. But apart from that, I don't feel it was an Olympus Has Fallen kind of Gerard Butler action film. I don't feel like it was a John Wick style action film where it was just all action. I feel like it has its own little niche. But I definitely don't think it was something where it was going to be Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer levels of thinking. It wasn't a slow burn. I thought it was quite entertaining. And so my general thoughts, if I want to go really on the surface level, is I don't know what I was expecting. And I think that's what problem many people were having is they don't know what they were expecting. I was quite confused when it finished, but after a night of sleeping on it, I think I generally fall upon me really enjoying it. By the way, I really enjoy Alex Garland's films. Like I'd say Ex Machina, as I mentioned to you, is probably one of my favorite films of all time. It's a masterpiece. And then Annihilation, just coming out on Netflix, phenomenal film. And so I know that he's an absolute legend of a filmmaker. This is his last film, apparently. He's just packed it in after this.
Oh wow!
And so when I watched it, I had really high expectations. But particularly with regards to like the commentary that it has in Ex Machina, without saying much, tells you a lot. I don't think Civil War tells you a lot. I just think it's really entertaining. And I think the stuff that tells me a lot I'll get into, but your general views on the film itself.
Yeah, I mean, To be honest, I think because you just said that a lot of people didn't know what to expect, but I think there was a kind of wide expectation going into it for it to be this really politicized film.
Mm.
Obviously, there's a lot of things going on in the States right now, and a lot of division. So I feel like a lot of people were disappointed that it didn't pick a particular side. But personally, I liked that because it was kind of a self-contained story in a wider war that you don't really need to know everything about to get the story. Because I feel like the characters themselves, they probably haven't got a clue what's going on either.
Their motivations are not political. They don't really care about.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
I don't think that they cared because of what they were doing with their jobs.
Yeah.
It was regardless of that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I didn't really know what to expect, but I mean, I just went into it thinking, oh, this is going to be a really cool kind of actiony sort of disaster movie in a way. That's what I was kind of expecting, but the fact that it wasn't that, and it was more of a story of, it was more a journalist story inside a war, I wasn't disappointed by that. I kind of prefer those smaller stories anyway. Like, I love a good war film, love a good action film, but I feel like a lot of the time with those, the story is kind of secondary to, what you see.
And that's why I was so confused. Really, I was confused in terms of how I feel about it, is because the elements of story being unimportant, then obviously what you then go to is themes. It wasn't thematically dense, although I can say that it was really effective in identifying with like the desensitization of violence when it occurs. That terrifies me. Like that, I can't get over how we could live in a world like that, where violence and death can be so prominent. Obviously, there's been many wars in the world. We're currently going through one right now, where that is just like a normal part of people's day-to-day life. Like there's a scene where they're sitting down just watching like shooting and fighting going on in the sky, and they're just like saying, "Oh, it's beautiful." Apart from obviously, Kirsten Dunst is having a bit of a PTSD moment, but apart from that, there is an element there, and I think that's where the main girl's journey, not the main girl, but the younger main character's journey comes through the fact that she starts off being Jessie. She's well done, mate. Good research. See, I don't have any. I need to have my laptop with me for the future, but and our producer, who's not available today. We don't have a producer, don't have Damien anyway. But I think that the story being told through her lens is effective, or it's the filmmaker's effectiveness in that. I was really impressed with how shocking everything felt, even though it wasn't like a kind of great big war film where like millions of people are killed, but where there are deaths and where there is like, where there are many little battles happening, you really do feel it. And I go to the scene where the guys behind where the guy's getting shot at and they are trying to like get him out. And the effect of the gunshots, we watched in IMAX, the effect of the gunshots was great, where they go through this like abandoned winter wonderland area, and someone's shooting from a house. Really eerie and really like quite spooky. Like gave me like horror film vibes to it. Like I had quite a few jump scares, kind of jolted a bit.
Yeah.
And so like her desensitization is quite interesting because I didn't go with her there, if that makes sense. I think I didn't feel that like don't care anymore about this. I was really still quite affected by all that was going on. Whereas she was more, throughout the film, she was more engaged with what was going on and more brave with her photography, to a point where it gets to the end. I don't want to commit spoilers, but it shows how far she's come in what she needs to do to be a successful photographer. And I think where character goes, where character effectiveness goes in that respect, I find it less. I found it less effective because Alex Garland was so good at making those scenes quite intense.
Yeah, I mean, I think within the story there is a coming of age story for Jesse's character, and I feel like she's the character that I probably enjoyed the most, but I feel like she's probably the only character that had real substance. I mean, I'm going to get onto Kirsten Dunst's character in a bit because I had a few issues with that towards the end that I didn't, that I was a bit kind of thrown off by. But obviously, are we doing a spoiler-free review? Or?
I think initial thoughts and we go into spoilers a bit later.
Right. Okay, so this is just like...
Yeah. I think I went in too much.
I haven't been informed about anything. I've had zero prep.
Well, we're learning as we're going. This is how we're going.
Okay, so I guess I'll go into a bit more detail there. But yeah, I feel like it's, sort of a coming of age story in the sense that, she starts off being completely horrified by the realities of war and, what comes with that. And then by the end, she's just gritting her teeth and getting on with it.
I think you're right, though.
Almost a bit too much.
Yeah.
Which ultimately leads to the demise of a certain character.
But is that potentially true in that, like, if you're exposed to something that you get over it so quickly that, the space of, look, they're going 800 miles, right? So should we say that's a 2 week time span?
Yeah.
So you think that's a lot for her to go through what she gets through to get to her end point. But I think that's what the film's telling us. I think people that don't care about other human life, things like the Civil War that we see in the film can turn into something pretty ugly pretty quickly. And I don't think that I didn't feel that just for a Civil War context, because I think in England we're pretty safe. I don't think there's any sort of political tensions that are really boiling up. I know you look at me like that, right? You look at me like that, but I mean, if you look at the differences between the Labour and Conservative Party, I don't think people actually know where they stand politically anyway. Whereas there is very much blue versus red state thing going on, like the left versus the right. I understand we have a very strong left presence and a very strong right presence. I'm not degrading that. I'm just saying that the tensions between that. I feel like England, like especially London, because we live near London. I feel London's like a hotspot for other countries to be represented within I don't know, our society. Yeah. And so therefore we don't really talk about tensions within England as much, as opposed to be representative of the ongoing battles that are going on in Ukraine, in Russia, and obviously the Iranian Gaza, whatever, there's a lot of that we talk about, not really about ourselves. Whereas, as you've mentioned, in America, it's a lot different.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, I mean, this isn't going to turn into a political podcast, but
no,
in America, it's more red on blue.
But it's relevant, right?
It's relevant. More like red on blue, and then I guess in the UK, it's more just everyone hates the government, pretty much.
Yeah, and but that's my point, is that they won't like the Labour Party, who are going to be... I mean, the Conservative Party are supposed to be the party that kind of gets everyone out of debt and, kind of tightens on things, and then everyone gets fed up, and you get the Labour Party. I'm really oversimplifying what happens, but that's pretty much what happens. But now the Tories have stuck us in debt as well, because they couldn't get us out of the hole as a result of COVID, and now Labour are probably going to come in, right? Yeah. And what are they going to do? Be more loose and print more money? It's just going to be the same kind of thing. That's what I'm saying, that political idealism is very, very limited in terms of how they can sway, because there's nothing you can do, really.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that's a little bit more achievable in America, where you can have different points of view and act on it. But I don't know, Trump or Biden, it's a bit of a... But I think it's really important to note, though, that if you want to go and see Civil War, that it's not at all about the left versus the right. I think it's so... There's a real effort to go against there being a perception of which side someone's on. Okay, so you have two states that have basically tried to overthrow the government versus the rest, essentially, right? I don't know, I can't remember what the two states are, but apparently the two states are completely opposing in real life, so that was the obvious intention behind that, right? Yeah. And so, and then, they do villainize one of the sides in one scene, but I really want to go into spoilers now.
I feel like there is a clear effort to stay neutral in this, because there's two moments in the film that I feel do that, where basically, one character says, well, they're essentially saying, I don't care who they are, but they're shooting at me.
I love that scene. Yeah.
So I feel like that's put in there to be like, it's
is that where he goes, what are they doing? And she goes, shooting at you. And he goes, there you go. Yeah. That's my situation. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
But then you have the Jesse Plemons scene where it's just like, where are you from? Where are you from? Where are you from?
Yeah.
So, but even then, his character, he doesn't care about what side of the war that they're on. He's just a bit of a maniac. But he asks them where they're from.
Which in a world world where there are no rules and where people are not law abiding anymore, and people are allowed to commit the atrocities that they do in the film, they are gonna be Jesse Plemons in that world, right? Despite the fact that they're wearing army gear on, and that's terrifying. That scene's one of the best scenes in the film.
Yeah.
Where he's and it's in the trailer where he's interrogating them as to where they're from, which I think is quite interesting, because you would think that he would be asking them from a point of where they're from in terms of. So obviously they didn't want to mention that we were from. I can't remember the two countries. The two states that he was fighting against. But I believe they mentioned like Massachusetts. They're basically mentioning everywhere that it wasn't those two states.
Yeah, it was Florida, Colorado, and
Massachusetts.
Yeah, I believe so. Or was it Missouri?
Oh, Missouri, yeah, sorry. It started with the M.
It was one of the M's.
My American geography is awful.
Yeah, but it was almost like playing what's that, like Snappy Crocodile game where you like flick the teeth down and it bites down. It's kind of like that, or Russian roulette. I don't know.
You're starting to sound very old.
I don't know why I went to that first.
Yeah,
but yeah, they're playing Russian roulette with.
There's a couple of clunky things. I really enjoyed it. Like, I think there's such a, and I saw this from someone else, and this is not my own opinion, but I completely agree with it. Alex Garner's really good at making like under 2 hour films, and in a world where every director wants to make their 3 hour masterpiece, it is so refreshing that we went on this journey and we got out, and I'd be far more critical if this was a 2.5 hour version of this film.
Yeah. I feel like the pacing of the film was perfect.
Yeah,
near perfect.
And it helps when it's shorter. That's just simple, isn't it?
Exactly. I feel like for what it is, it's not necessary. I mean, I'm as a wannabe filmmaker myself. Like I'm trying to figure out what kind of filmmaker I want to be. And I feel like something that I do really like is something where it is, you're immersed for the duration of the film. Obviously, you need moments of stillness. For example, like in one of the opening scenes where they're sat looking at the gunfight going on in the background, and it's like I don't know, like
there were little like pauses for breath, weren't they?
Yeah,
they felt
sometimes. Exactly. But yeah, so you need a pause every now and again, but. I agree with you, but yeah, it's just get in, get out, and it works. And I was on the edge of my seat for pretty much the whole time, except for that one scene. But I feel like as they get closer to DC, it gets the situation gets more and more dangerous.
Yeah, which I really liked. There was like apart from the last scene's done well, but I think the more personal battles that they were having, where they were kind of character moments, I really enjoyed. I think they were really well done.
Yeah.
Like even when they're driving and someone's following them, you feel the tension of those kind of smaller scenes, because you think that anything can happen. I was thinking about like Kill of a Flower Moon. Like it didn't make my top 10 last year, but I came out of it going, oh, it's great. But then if I really think about it, there were times in the film where I was like, oh man, this is long. This is getting incredibly long.
Yeah.
And last year was definitely a year for longer films. Like I really enjoyed Beau's Afraid by Ari Aster.
That got a lot of stick.
Yeah, I loved it.
That's actually why I ended up not watching it.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. It's a great representation of anxiety, but that's also long. That you can feel the length. And I feel like on a separate note, like there is a real I feel like there's a real coming together between TV and film sometimes. Like there's some TV series I watched without this you could have easily just turned this into a film.
Yeah.
And some films where it's like you just want to be a 6-part TV series, don't you?
You just want money.
Yeah, we're going to refer to Babe. Hopefully, going to talk a little bit about Baby Reindeer, but later. But like I watched that in one sitting as a film. Like I don't know how long it was, but like the pacing of that could have easily just been turned into a film because it was so riveting throughout. Anyway, we're not talking about that anyway. Any spoilers you want to reference? You that. Well, with regards to it.
Well, I feel
spoiler warning.
Yeah, I feel like when we break it down a bit further, I guess in the next part, if you will. I mean, because when I talk about a film, I like to break it down into kind of script and direction, cinematography, sound, blah 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 blah. So I like to break it down like that. So I will talk about specific moments, but I don't know.
Well, I think with the go on your variables. I want to hit so script.
Okay. I don't think the script didn't blow me away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was nothing really in there, like any dialogue per se that blew me away. Because you can't really explain it, but for me, I can just tell if it's a good script.
Okay. Not good for a podcast. He was like, I can just tell.
But you could just tell if it's a good
So you think it wasn't a good script? You're
not.
No, you're not on board.
I don't think it was a great script. It was a good script. I don't think it was a great script. I think it was quite basic as scripts go. But when I look at a good script, it tends to be films that are slightly more dialogue heavy. But if a film like goes like seamlessly from one scene into the other and the pacing is good, that tends to mean that the writing is also good as well because it's been thought about how it goes from scene to scene. But I guess dialogue per se, there were some nice moments in there, but there was nothing really that blew me away. There's no real like memorable piece of dialogue.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting one because I love the in-betweeners, but not for the script, because it's not necessarily good dialogue. It's just like the characters. That was the analogy I was thinking earlier, where I don't think it's necessarily this problem with the script. I didn't mind the script at all, and I actually felt that where the other characters came through, like the Chinese characters, the Jesse Plemons cameo, the two guys that were in the Winter Wonderland scene. I was quite engaged with those moments with the dialogue. I just found that the big weakness for me was the main 4 characters. I found.
Yeah.
I didn't find them where there were deaths. I didn't really care. I didn't feel them at all. I felt the situation. I didn't feel that I engaged enough with the characters, and that would have made it a much more effective film to feel for these people.
Yeah, I think so. I think Lee, I would call her the main protagonist, but then I don't really think she is. I think she starts off being the main protagonist, and then it becomes Jesse towards the end, which I guess is actually intentional because
she becomes Lee.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah. That's the.
But I do. Yeah. So I do think Lee specifically is probably the weaker of the characters.
Can I just present something to you with that? You thinking the weak? I agree, but you might. I feel like you have to not. I'm not undermining you here, but I feel like you have to grab a lot without knowing with her. Yeah. So what she's going through is the story's telling you. This is mine. You tell me if you disagree, but I feel like there is an element there where her trauma is like long-standing and long-term.
Yeah.
Where it keeps like bouncing into scenes where she's experiencing stuff. She comes across at the start of the film like, oh, I go through this stuff. I'm brilliant. Like Jesse, is it Jesse? Was it her name?
Jesse's
Jesse.
Yeah.
Jesse comes and like, I'm such a big fan. She's like, oh, whatever, She's comes across quite confident in her being a war photographer, but actually she's harboring a lot of trauma for all the stuff that she's done before. I like the quote of the Antifa massacre. I like how it doesn't imply either way that Antifa did the massacre or the massacre was on Antifa, which I thought is so clever for what the film's trying to do, is not give you an opinion.
Yeah.
Which
he's playing it safe, but you don't need to politicize
exactly.
this film. So.
But back to Lee, she is clearly the overwhelmed, not by the situation, but by how previous trauma is built up into what she into to a point where she just can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
And you can then foresee for Lee, was her when she was younger, that will permeate and become her experience when she's older as well. That trauma will stay with her. She'll be able to deal with those horrible situations in the moment, like photograph, be brave. Oh, look, I'm so brave in like the short term, but then the long term implications will be the same as what happens to Lee in the film.
Yeah. No, don't get me wrong. I get what they're going for.
Oh, sorry.
I understand her character.
Okay, that was just for the audience. Then.
Yeah. No, so I understand her character by all means, but I just don't think it was executed successfully. Like, I get what's going on.
No, I agree.
So
you have to do a lot of digging.
Yeah,
you have to do a lot
for context. So Lee, war photographer most of her life. She's seen some pretty messed up stuff. She's seen people getting set on fire. She's seen people getting shot, getting murdered, whatever.
And it's quite good at showing you that in the film.
So
that part.
There is the one. You get that one flashback scene about a third of the way in where you see all that, and then it doesn't really touch on it until the last sequence. And let me cook. So
Let me talk.
No. So
sorry, no. I'm listening. I'm interested. Sorry.
So when it gets to that battle in DC, right? When they first get there, she just randomly goes into a panic attack. Well, not even a panic attack. She's just crying.
She gets anxious. Yeah.
She just starts crying.
Yeah, she has an anxiety attack.
It just doesn't make sense to me in that moment. It really doesn't. And she's doing it for a long time as well. It's not even like a quick and then what's the guy's name? I feel like we should know this, but
He's basically
Pep Guardiola.
Pep Guardiola and Pedro Pascal's brother, long lost brother.
The guy who plays Pablo Escobar in Narcos, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Like Mora. There you go. So he, is basically just walking around with her for like 10 minutes while she's crying, and it just doesn't make sense to me, because up until that point, she's not really feeling anything. She's seen this person getting shot, that person getting shot, essentially her mentor dying in front of her, and then all of a sudden it gets to the.
I think that had a huge impact on her.
All of a sudden it just gets to the final sequence. Like, for me, if you're gonna touch on something like anxiety or a panic attack or PTSD, I feel like you have to put it throughout the film, and that is using sound, or if you have like a shot of her and you're getting like the flashbacks behind her in the background, it's like fluttering and whatnot. But it just doesn't do that. So I feel like it's a bit random, and it really annoyed me.
I feel like it does.
I
really feel like it does.
Annoyed me as well, because no one's really paying attention to it either. Michael Moore's got, he's just got his hand on her and he's just kind of walking around with her, but he's not, I feel like the other characters they're oblivious to it, but also we're just kind of ignoring it as well. And I don't think that was intentional. It annoyed me because, the best, this is quite random, but the best film for me that demonstrates anxiety is Uncut Gems. Like, I felt like stressed for that entire film, and it was even such simple things like the use of sound. Like, in some of the scenes, you just have this really quiet, like, whirring, like this high pitched, like, whistle in the background. And if you you wouldn't notice it, but that subconsciously kind of raises your stress levels. So I'm saying that I think there just has to be more in there to show that.
Can I present you with times where I feel like they did?
Okay.
So it's obviously not successful in your opinion. So that's valid, right? And as I've mentioned, I don't find the four characters that compelling either. So I don't feel like it was successful for me. I then ask the question: does it need the 2.5 hour runtime to elicit that? And I think what Alex Garland tried to do is, I think he tried to temper those in different ways. So, for example, the first one, the flashback you mentioned. There's one flashback, right? Instead of having multiple flashbacks, which again will add to the runtime, before the flashback, she has a scene where the camera's coming in on her and she's thinking, right? The second time it happens, you feel like you're about to get a flashback. It's when they're looking into the sky and it kind of hones in on her. And then the gunshots are happening and you're like, oh, that's another flashback. Did you not think for a second that was a flashback?
Yeah, I mean...
Until you saw Jess. Because until you saw Jessie, I was like, this is a flashback. So I thought that was on purposely done to be like, this is just another day. So not only is she thinking about the past, she's also worrying about what's going to happen in the future as well.
Yeah, no, I get that. And don't get me wrong, like, you know, you can definitely tell that there is trauma there. But my point is that she doesn't, like, she's absolutely fine until, you know, until that final sequence. And
I didn't quite get that at all.
And I just don't really get why. I mean, if there was a moment where Jessie like comes over to her to comfort her and be like, no, come on, like we need to go, like, and then she's the one who's lifting her up, then it kind of shows that passing of the torch.
But I think Jessie's a catalyst to her feeling like that, because she sees a lot of herself in Jessie, and and that impression of her, she's putting on a straight face, but actually deep down she's completely destroyed by all of these things that she's experienced. Yeah. And so I thought, so that was my third reason. My fourth one is the death of her mentor, and there is a scene, and it takes a while, where she's wiping the blood off the car, and I think that purposefully takes its time for you to go that she's not going to be quite okay after the situation. I think with films, right, where there's mortality involved, I think we react so differently because we're so like used to like death happening in films, and so when things happen, we go, oh fuck, you know, death, whatever. Yeah. And so what's supposed to resonate within this film is that these things are so hard hitting that despite these people who are desensitized by what's going on and their war, you know, that it gets to the point where Kirsten Dunst just can't deal with it anymore. And I think that day where the literal storming of the Capitol. Yeah. I feel like that was like just the last moment that she could deal with it, and she just completely broke down as a result.
I just feel like I just need to see that more obviously. I think. Okay. You know, like say every little thing that happens. So you know,
there's a great shot, if you don't mind me saying, where after the older man dies. Yeah. And it's a slow motion shot, and I just think it's beautiful.
Is it Sam?
Yeah. Yeah. Where the artillery's like. Driving past behind the back of Pedro Pascal's brother, right? And he is just crying, but it's in slow motion. I thought that was really good shot.
I'll be honest, I hated that. So they all drive.
I really liked it. I really liked it.
No, that was the moment where I was like, this guy really looks like Pep Guardiola, because it reminded me.
Yeah, but
it reminded me of that moment. You know when he goes up to the fourth official, he's like twice, like that. It reminded me of that. So I felt like that kind of took me out of the film a bit. But I don't know. I didn't like that. You know what? Actually, this is going to go into this. There were a few moments where I'm just like, you're trying so hard to be indie here. Like, you know the scene where...
That's his roots, though. That's where he's from.
So there's the scene where Jessie's waving her hand out the window like this. I'm just like, oh, a typical, like, that's actually a typical indie film shot. And then there was the other one where I think it's Sam.
Damien will love you.
The old guy's looking out the window at the you know, the
what a beautiful scene. It's a beautiful scene. Yeah, I loved it.
I mean, it looks pretty, but I kind of, like, if it was just that, and, you know, like, I feel like just have one of them. Like,
it's how beautiful.
There's a way of doing nice looking shots without doing that.
So you think it was obnoxious?
I don't know. It's just
because I think American films can be generally obnoxious. But this didn't feel like that for me at all.
You know what? The one with the fire, like the fire sparks. Yeah, I didn't mind that. I think it was the fact that you have the hand waving out the window first. I hated that. Then I saw that afterwards, and I'm just like rolling my eyes at it because I feel like the fire sparks, and then when they're sitting in the back of the truck watching all the shooting going on at night, that for me was the most beautiful shot of the film. Like, I was actually sitting there thinking, oh, that's actually quite nice, even though it's like two militias going at it, you know, in the middle of the night. But it was, you know, it was pretty to look at, and it was almost like, you know,
I think a lot of it was very good to look at.
It was, for me, it kind of felt like when you're on holiday and you kind of sat on the balcony and the sun's going down, you can hear the crickets and everything. Like, it was reminiscent of that, which is kind of weird to think about. But that was done quite well, because they were just kind of watching it, and as if it was like a pretty thing to look at, like a sunset.
I don't know if it was the IMAX, but I found the level of crispness from the camera. That camera is next level that they use. Like, there was some scenes. I think there was one where there was a helicopter going over a lake, and it was just, I don't know, it was just I don't know if it was the IMAX, but it wasn't the shot that was beautiful. It was like how the resolution was like nothing I'd ever seen before. I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I found the camera that they used in that film was like nothing I'd seen. I don't know, maybe technology is finally catching up here.
Evolved.
Maybe, but I mean, for how long have we been able to say that? You know, everything's just always been like your typical HD 4K camera. But I felt with this film, I felt some of this. The first time I saw it was when Zack Snyder started using those cameras that had such intense, I don't know how to explain it, but basically where you see what is in focus is so in focus that everything behind is so blurred out that it looks like that you can't even recognize what's in the background. Right. And I felt that there was some elements of that within this film where the focus on the characters was so like intense that the blurring out of the back was like I don't know, it's something I noticed in one of the scenes. Yeah, anyway, it was when they were sitting by the lake, and you could hardly see the lake because the intensity of the camera focus was so in depth on the characters that you could hardly see. Well, it was just something I noticed. It was really, it was quite prominent.
Okay, I mean, personally, I didn't really pick up on that, but I guess that's because I look for different things.
Yeah. So, what other variables? Because you mentioned a couple of things. Do you want to address that you would judge a film by? Did you say audio?
I mean, the sound is one, but it's secondary for me. Like
the guns were.
Oh yeah, I mean, I felt like every gunshot, I was just like in my chair.
I was right. If you don't like jump scares, I think this had the most jump scares I've watched in the last like 3 or 4 years.
And they didn't have to be, but it worked. So
it actually worked.
So I hated it.
Yes,
but when I say I hate something, I don't mean that it's bad.
Absolutely,
I hated it, because I felt like I was getting shot at, and that's perfect.
I was like, oh gosh,
yeah.
Because there are scenes where, and this is where I think the film works the best. It works the best where you don't know what's happening to these characters, where they're in danger, but you don't quite know what the danger is. And I think that's where it works the best. And I think those 10-minute sequences that are littered through are just done fantastically well.
Yeah. I mean, one that I particularly enjoyed, again, it was fairly early on, but it was so the next morning when they go to this shootout that's happening.
Yeah.
So something that this is like a really, really like minute detail, but something that I really liked, and it continues throughout the film as well. But when these journalists are following the soldiers, if you will, when they're following them through the buildings, or when they're shooting or whatever, they're holding their cameras up as if they're guns, and it's something that I noticed because they're
like lifting it up,
because they're all so the soldiers are all forming up, they're all aiming, and then a few people back, you have someone with a camera like this as if they're holding a gun, and I don't know what it is I like about it, but I just
that's
thought,
cool. I like that
pretty
too.
Cool because it's as if they're fighting with them.
Yeah. But, although the additional media people were completely irrelevant, like the British woman at the end was such an irrelevant part. I felt.
Yeah.
I didn't really get her existence in the film. But yeah, because I had an argument. Anyway, closing thoughts of the film, and we give a star rating out of 5 just because we are those kind of people.
I'd like to talk about the ending.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, the ending itself, how it happened, I don't really have a particular problem with that. Like you have the whole, so Jesse gets a bit overexcited, let's say, tries to get the money shot down the hallway
Which wouldn't have been that much of a shot because it's just one of the
I don't know.
agents, right?
I feel like it would have been quite cool getting one of the Secret Service agents basically protecting the Oval Office.
Yeah, fair enough.
But basically, she gets ahead of herself, which is what I was saying about her journey as a character and why Lee ends up sacrificing herself for her. Is that like she gets a bit too big for her boots, I think, and she starts to think that she's invincible. Like she's desensitized. People dying around doesn't really bother her anymore, and she just takes that one step too far, and it results in Lee dying. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's quite symbolic of her passing the torch. Lee knows that Jesse's ready to come, to become a war journalist, war photographer. Like she's ready. So,
it was quite haunting when she takes a picture of her.
Yeah, but there's the line earlier where Jesse asks Lee if she says to her, if I died, would you take a picture of me?
Yes, and then in addition to that, she deletes the photo of Sam being murdered. So it implies that Lee is not willing to do that with people that she has relationships with, whereas Jesse is, and I found that quite interesting. I don't think it's earned. I think what you said earlier about the characters earning what they're feeling and what they're going through, I don't feel it's earned, but I get what was trying to be I get the attempts of what was happening there.
Yeah, but back to the point there. So that I wasn't raving about it, but I understood what they were trying to do. I was like, okay, that's cool. The final part where the president gets shot, like that's all cool. But how are you getting into the White House like that? The front door was open. There was no one inside. And the president of the United States is hiding under a desk. I'm sorry, but that just wouldn't happen. The president would at least be in a bunker somewhere, in a secure bunker that's, the door is locked and encrypted, and you have an entire army of people in front of it. But
I think there wasn't a mention of something that he understood that they would storm and he would be willing to negotiate or something like that.
Yeah, but surely he's smarter than that, and surely he has people around him that are smarter than that, and to be like,
But he's from Parks and Recreation.
So he, But so he
Ron Swanson would not have accepted that.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't kill Ron Swanson like that.
Ron Swanson for president. Forget Trump and Biden. But
Did you notice that
it was too easy?
Did you notice the technical? So they're all photographers, right? They're not videographers. But the scene where they shoot him is a slowed down video from her camera.
Oh, because it's a sports mode. It's like,
but it's movement.
Yeah.
But she's not filming it. She's taking a picture of it. So it's actually not accurate. It's not accurate. It just bugged me a little bit.
Also, the way he dies is stupid as well. He gets shot in the chest. He just, spasms a bit. And then he just really peacefully just puts his hands on his chest. And I'm like, mate, you're dead. Why are your hands still moving? If anything, they're just going to stay by your side. So I had an issue with that. But yeah, I just feel like the whole getting inside the White House, the outside didn't even look like the White House. And
you're being pedantic.
No, and then they walk through the front door, and then they only have to get through about 10 people before they get to the president.
Yes, because they had limited resources. The Secret Service were.
If it is literally just the Secret Service versus everyone,
they do talk about this. It was the Secret Service and one last kind of group of army officers.
But I still think you're going to have more protection there. Or at that point, the president isn't even going to be in there. He's going to be in Tahiti.
So Chris made a good point last night, where he said, "What is the?"
I don't think he did.
He said, "What is the point of? How is it that all of the states are up against two states?" Well, my impression, I think the Jess Plemons scene is really important because I think it insinuates the apathy of some of those people. I don't think they're interested. They don't really care about protecting the president. I think everyone's just off on their own vibes.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the impression I got from that scene. There's no reason for that scene apart from having guys that are just there to kill people. They are literally just killing people. I mean, you look at the little natural coffin, shall I say, that they made for, it was about 100 people in there. Those two blokes have no interest in fighting the war. They're just absolute idiots. And I think that may be an impression. That may be. I don't think that the military's intact.
Yeah.
Whereas the 2-star and the military are really on it.
I mean, we missed the opening scene.
Yeah, but I watched it. It didn't help.
And it was just a speech saying that we've won a little battle in this war between the Western forces and New California Republic. I think that's what it was. But
the WF.
but you have so in one of the factions is the loyalist states. So I assume that the loyalist states would be loyal to the president. But I don't know. I mean,
she's saying there's more groups.
Yeah,
I got that impression.
Like I like the fact that there isn't a lot of political context in there, but maybe just like a little bit more, just like a smidge.
Yeah, Chris hated that.
Yeah,
Chris thought it was a bit. It was left.
Yeah, but
I didn't think it was left. I don't think it was anything at all. I think it
wasn't important to the story.
At the gas station, again, a really good scene. Like I was saying, like in this film, there are like 5 out of 5 star film scenes.
Yeah,
like that scene in the gas station is brilliant. The guy has a cross on him, so there's religious symbolism there. That first scene, I was like, gun culture in America. We're all, gun-toting Christians. So there's a little bit going on there. Yeah. I thought, but that was as far as I got. I
didn't even notice the cross in that because I still had Chris munching M&Ms in my ear.
It did like a pan down or a pan up. Here's my gun, here's my cross. Oh, wow. Had that kind of vibe to it.
Fair enough. I didn't notice that.
But... Yeah, it did. Right. Out of 5, what are you going to give it and why? You're allowed to give halves.
It's annoying because I give everything 3.5 stars.
Your first 2 films of your first podcast is going to be 3.5, isn't it?
Yeah, no. So I'm going to give it 3.5. I think. Yeah, 3.5 because I don't give anything a 5, right?
Oh, you're one of those.
No, because nothing's perfect, and it's not perfection. It's my idea of perfection, right?
I've got a 5-star today. I've got a 5-star today.
I hope you don't.
I do,
unless it's the thing that I haven't seen.
I don't know if you've watched all of it, but yeah, I have a 5-star.
Interesting.
So yeah, go on. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. I feel like the most I'd give something is 4.5, unless it was like one of my films, and I give it a 5, obviously. But no, I think cinematography is great. But there's a lot lacking, isn't there? The performances are. I mean, no, not the performances, but the character development. The character development is slightly lacking. There's a few things in there that I didn't really like. But cinematography was good. Sound was good. I liked the story and the concept of the story, but for me, it's just not enough to give a 4. It didn't blow me away in any way. Like it would be 4 at an absolute max, but I feel like I didn't like more than I liked. Yep. But I'm overly critical. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair as you can.
Like I feel like unless I absolutely despise a film and it's the worst thing I've ever seen, Scoop.
I've heard some good reviews about it.
No. I mean, I also have a personal vendetta against
2-minute reviews. I'm looking forward to 2-minute reviews.
Well, no, because I mean, for reasons that I can't talk about, but Netflix can do one. Yeah, I feel like unless it's absolutely terrible, it's like 3 is like my kind of baseline.
Same.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I agree. So, 3 is what you should expect.
3 is good for me. 4 is great. 5 is perfect. So I think 3.5 is
okay.
I don't know why I just took 5 minutes to explain.
No, you're good. You're good. Good luck editing that bit.
and I didn't even explain it. It's just a whole load of nothing.
I think that this is Alex Garland's weakest film, but it doesn't mean anything because I'm a big fan of his. It's like saying I think Killer of the Flower Moon is one of Scorsese's weakest films. They're still good films, but I think I was on a 3.5 last night, and I've woken up with a 4. And the reason why is because I just was really entertained. I didn't feel bored. I really enjoyed what was going on. I actually could have watched another half an hour. I had problems with it just like you did. I didn't really care for the characters. there were some things that didn't quite make sense, and but I find that the individual scenes, like the set pieces, were extraordinarily done.
Absolutely.
And that pulls it to a 4. A very, very good film.
Okay.
But it's nothing on Annihilation and Ex Machina.
Yeah, I feel like I need to at least, so after I watch a film, I have to at least watch stuff about it, about the making of it, and maybe give it a second watch before I can give my like definitive review. Because to be honest, I've forgotten half of it already.
It's definitely a film I
Do
can
you know
watch
what I
again.
mean?
Yeah, I mean, Monkey Man we're going to go into, but I feel like out of the two, Civil War is definitely a film I'd watch again over Monkey Man.
Yeah,
because we're going to go into it, but we'll try and section this out off into it because obviously we've got YouTube sections to do. But yeah, that's our review of Civil War. Our next review, we've got 2 reviews this week because we went to see
Trump.
2 films. Don't vote Trump.
Vote
Vote
Trump.
Trump. Yeah. My crypto
Trump 2024.
My crypto stocks need it. So yeah, Monkey Man, directed by Dev Patel, starring Dev Patel. First time director. So there's all sorts of things that you could expect with that. I've always been a fan of Dev Patel, but I've never really loved him in anything that he's been in, apart from The Green Knight. I liked him in The Green Knight. I really did like him in The Green Knight. But yeah, his directorial debut. I got very much the Raid vibes from and John Wick vibes from the trailer. I love that trailer. Whoever put together that trailer did a great job because is it that film?
Yeah.
Sorry, is that song?
It's Million Tabaki by Punjabi MC. I'm not being culturally inappropriate.
Yeah, please don't get us cancelled before that.
It is a band.
Don't get us cancelled before we even start the podcast
know
again.
some of the words. So
yeah, so Damien hasn't watched Civil War or Monkey Man, so this would have been a waste of time for him. But anyway, Monkey Man, initial thoughts for you.
I will have to jog my memory because it's been over a week since I've seen it. But
it doesn't have to be as long as Civil War. Don't worry.
It started so well. It started so well, and I was thinking, oh, like this could actually be, this could break into my like top 20. I don't know. Definitely not top 10, but I was thinking, it had a lot of promise, and I was thinking, oh, I might actually really like this because it is basically Indian John Wick. That's the simplest way of describing it, in the way that it's a big action film, lots of fight sequences. But what I like about it is that it did have a story that I kind of connected to. John Wick. So, what's the most recent one? Is it
4?
Is it just John Wick 4?
Yeah.
Doesn't have a title. Well, so John Wick 4, right? It's good. It was enjoyable.
It's very good.
But I got so bored of the fight sequences by the end.
I got bored of the fight sequences of 3.
It was like playing a video game.
I disagree. I think 4 had much more interesting fights. Number 3 was the one that I thought this is getting too much.
Yeah.
Number 4 had is it Yang?
I don't know.
The guy with the walking stick.
Oh, I can't remember his name.
I know that 3 had the Halle Berry with the.
Oh, him.
He was great. Like
but no, like it was good, but by the end, I just felt like it was just getting a bit repetitive and blah blah blah. But but my point
is, you've got the stairs scene there where he like falls down the stairs. I think it was quite.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. Like the fight sequences were probably some of the best that I've ever seen in films. Like ever, like some of the best, shooting choreography and everything. It was amazing, but the story kind of lacked as a result of that. It was a bit, even if, say you cut half of those fight sequences out, I'd probably prefer it as a film. But anyway, back to Monkey Man. So it starts off really nicely. You have, a lot of these flashbacks with the mum, and you start to see kind of his upbringing, his kind of religious beliefs, and you have this, is it a parable? Can I call it a parable? I don't know what the equivalent would be for. It's
a Hindu story.
Yeah, so it's kind of a Hindu parable.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
about the monkey god, and I really enjoyed that, and I feel like it had a lot of soul to it, a lot of substance to it. But I feel like as the film went on, the story just felt completely flat.
Yeah.
I feel like the ending I absolutely despised. I'll be honest, and it's a bit of a strong word, but I've thought about it more, and I really didn't like it. Not necessarily because of what happened, but I just feel like how it happened and the lack of character build up towards that point. I really didn't enjoy, but. As a directorial debut for Dev Patel, it was brilliant. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate this film. I still think this film's pretty good. I'd put it on par with Civil War in terms of likability, or in terms of what I think it is like a film. I think it's good. I think it's good. But yeah, as a directorial debut, I think it's great. But Dev Patel obviously had a lot of help as well.
Do you reckon
he didn't do it on his own?
No, of course he didn't do it on his own. But yeah, his vision for things. Yeah, I think there's a lot of. I don't mind, right? Like I say, like I'm a teacher, right? So I say to my kids, there's difference between magpieing and copying, right? And you gotta find the sweet spot because you're not going to create something authentic, but without adding your own idea, but also like taking some bits from the best, so it's learning versus your autonomy, right? And I find that he strikes a really good balance here. I think there is some things there where you go, this is quite interestingly you. I think the setting is really interesting as well. Like being held in India is a really cool. I just thought it was really cool, like having the setting of India as the backdrop.
Yeah, it's a good depiction of India as well.
Yeah,
because normally in normal Hollywood films, if you go to India, it's just like, oh, let's just slap an orange filter on here and play some banjos.
Absolutely right. Okay, so an authentic representation of India.
I think that's
I agree with you on the start. I think the first hour, I think we both looked at each other and went, Jesus, this is great. It kind of gave me the Departed vibes, where someone's trying to infiltrate. And Dev Patel was brilliant at doing that. Yes. Like this kind of silent guy who's trying to infiltrate within a group of people. You knew it was revenge stuff. I think where the reference I gave you last night, which you didn't understand, and I hope the viewers understand, is that Dev Patel is like the 19-year-old wonder kid footballer who's not quite broken into, being one of the best, but you can see some glimmers of awesomeness within his play. Does that make sense? And now to you, have you thought about that?
I mean,
he's breaking in. He's breaking into the team. He's breaking into the football team.
Yeah,
he scored a couple of goals. Like this film has got some excellent things going for it. Like the first hour is really focused. It's got a really good tempo to it. And I think where it lets itself down, I don't quite think it might be its fault. Because where you probably went off it is probably when I went off it, where it's the end of the scene where he's fought the guy for the first time and the water and they hit the glass and the water comes down in the nightclub. Right? From that point, it starts going a little bit down because he's injured and he has to do the Dark Knight Rises thing. That's what I call it, the Dark Knight Rises thing, where he's got to punch sand and he's got to get better.
He's got to climb out the tunnel.
He's got to climb out the tunnel, metaphorically. We're not even being spoilery, aren't we? I think it starts going into a lot of the politics of it. And I just think that we didn't understand it. I don't think the film does a good job of telling us what it's about. After reading a little bit afterwards about it, is that he's a Hindu, right? And so the Hindus are in power. And unfortunately, there is sort of like a religious apartheid going on in India as a result. So if you're Muslim, people were like, or Christian, people are treated differently as a result of depend on who is in power. Whereas opposed to like, we obviously live in multiculturalism where we kind of respect everyone for who they are. There is this kind of like apartheid with regards to that. And obviously people in the slums. And so there's a lot of economic kind of disparity. And he's the monkey man and he's trying to he goes up against basically his own people, so to speak. And that's the kind of the parable that is referenced at the start of the film. Until he eats the sun, trying to go for the highest mango, which is I think is a great kind of ending point. So I like the ending because I got what it was trying to do. But the action scenes were fantastic. And I really like them. I keep talking about all this. Damien is like fed up with me talking about it all the time. But The Raid and The Raid 2 are my two favorite action films. Right. John Wick can can go down the list somewhere.
I haven't seen that.
I love the Kingsman film, but The Raid is just like amazing, right? Like it's just that, and I feel like he was trying to do a bit with that. The cameras were very shaky at times. I feel like the cinematography was very dark. I don't know if it was the screening that we were in, but I just felt, Romford can be a bit dodgy, but I just felt that I was struggling to see things at times, particularly in the darker scenes.
You mean Romford could be a bit dodgy, as in?
I mean, Romford could be a bit dodgy.
The cinema in Romford.
Romford can be a bit dodgy, full stop. But I didn't like this. I thought the screening was the projection was poor. Or the film is just too dark.
Yeah, so we didn't watch it in IMAX or anything like that. But there was a light behind us that I noticed as we were coming out. But also, I think it's because some of the scenes were shot on an iPhone. I'm not being funny. I could kind of tell a little bit.
Yeah, you can tell with the frame rate. I mean, and that's where you can tell the most. Like sometimes it can be indistinguishable, but there was some frame rate things where you go, okay.
Yeah.
And he admitted it. He admitted he didn't have time for certain things, so he shot some bits on his iPhone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I feel like there was a lot of the film where they were pushed for time. I mean, there was that whole story where Dev Patel broke his arm, I believe.
Oh right, yeah.
And they were shooting on location on, I think it was like this remote island or something. And Dev Patel went to the producer and was just like, okay, don't tell anyone. And he basically got it quickly strapped up and came back to set and carried on the fight scenes as if he was fine because they just had to get that done.
This film screamed blood, sweat, and tears. The bloke put everything into it.
And I can appreciate that, and you can tell that a lot of effort has been put into it. And it's definitely a passion project.
He will be refined, and in 5 movies' time, he'll be an Oscar nominee, 100%. Like there is so much in this film that shows us that, and like you said, I think the first act where he is infiltrating the very people that are responsible for killing his village, destroying his village, I think is fantastic. It's a little bit on the nose, like building up to the part where the unfortunate thing with his mother happens. But again, that's kind of like first director kind of vibes and bits and bobs. I actually thought that they weren't going to actually even show it at all. I thought it was just going to be those flashes. I thought, oh, that's brilliant. That's great. That's kind of like in the first hour. Oh, that's really clever.
Yeah.
And then it shows it, and then you're like, that's when the film starts losing its focus, because then it starts going a little bit political. It starts trying to understand, and it introduces the main bad guy, who's way less intriguing than the guy who does all the bad things in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay, and again, sorry, spoilers here now for Monkey Man, but when he does kill the guy that killed his mother, that film's done for me.
Yeah.
And they try and push it on, like the conversation they have at the end. For me, maybe that is the one too many flight of stairs that he took on. But yeah, I'm a big fan of him, and I was not disappointed watching that film at all. I wasn't disappointed.
Yeah, I don't know, because I feel like with like when I say the ending I didn't like, it really means that the last kind of half an hour, I just feel like they got even just the order of the order that things happened in. I just don't think it worked for me. Like if you're doing a revenge story, the climax of it has to be you killing the guy that you want to have revenge on, not you kill him and then there's about 20 minutes more fighting and then you just kill the big boss that no one really cares about.
I agree. I agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, I watched Kill Bill recently. I don't particularly. I mean, like, it's good, but it's not for me personally. It's one of my least favorite Tarantino films. But that is a classic revenge story, and it ends with her killing the person that she wants to, have revenge on. It's not she kills her and then goes off on a little tangent, fights a few more dudes, and then kills the bald guy. Do you know what I mean? For me, that's just why it falls flat. I feel like everything has to come down to
that one fight.
The fight.
Do you know what you could have done, right? A brave move could have been killing him. You go up to the stairs and you see the bloke at the top, and then the film ends.
I think I would have hated that more.
But
Yeah.
but it's going into what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you understand that the main. I guess he's the leader.
The main villain, right, is the thematic, the theme of the film, whereby he is appropriating his religious biases onto people, and basically, kind of, I call it off screen, but you know what I mean. But like behind the scenes, killing people, and what's the word where you gentrifying? He's gentrifying areas into his religious image,
Yeah.
and kind of perpetuating himself as the savior.
Yeah.
Which I think is a really interesting idea, but the execution of it, I don't think is right for this film, which is basically, and Tony said it really well, right? We watched it with Alex and Tony. Tony was like, I really like that as a revenge film, and I agree with her. The other elements of it actually got in the way of what is just a revenge film.
Yeah.
Which would have helped Dev Patel, I think.
Yeah.
Make it more simple in its execution.
Yeah, I feel like, if you're, I feel the only way that ending works is if, you build up the character of this political leader a bit more. Like, obviously, you understand that he's the one.
He ordered it. Yeah.
Like, you understand that he's the one who's giving orders. But you just don't really have that same hatred for him than you do for the guy that did these horrible things to Dev Patel's character's mother. Like that's the main reason for him wanting revenge. And I feel like you just don't. Yeah, like it's just, I don't know. That he kills him and it's like, oh great, and then he kills the other guy and then he dies and it's just like, oh okay. And the death at the end, again, don't have a problem with it. But I feel like there needs to be something a bit more there. So with a revenge film, you either you do it and you get no satisfaction from it, or what happens in this film is that he kills the main guy, but then he dies himself as well. But when he goes to the again, I don't know the name of this particular faction, but the transgenders. When he goes to them, and this is straight out of Dark Knight Rises as well. Man, you can tell.
Dark Knight Rises vibes so much in that bit.
His inspirations are so obvious. I don't have a problem with that.
But there are lots. Like there's a lot there. There's a bit of Nolan. There's a bit of Evans. There's a bit of John Wick vibes. Yeah, there's a lot going. There's a lot of, it's a bit of Scorsese in there. Like as I said, for the first hour, I agree.
The inspiration is very clear. But I feel like if he's going to die in the way that he does, I feel like you have to kind of show him accepting that beforehand. Like him preparing himself to die. Okay. Essentially, like he has to have this whole like existential this is it. He doesn't.
Well, let's go back to the Dark Knight Rises, right?
Yeah.
The whole point of that scene, the whole reason that scene's effective, is because you, as a viewer, out of that scene, you're going, okay, Bruce Wayne, the reason why he's not doing as well as he could do, I'm oversimplifying this to get my point across, is because he does not have fear. He is so broken that he is not fearful of death. And as a result, that fear that is actually part of him, the whole Bats part when he was a child, fear is actually not only encompassing of him that he gives to other people, but what he uses as a power himself. And so he needs that fear in order to overcome the problems, overcome the Bane and overcome the pit. When Dev Patel's character goes into that area, you don't actually. He's just going there to get fitter, and to punch things. Now maybe there's the religious context and there's the trans context with like being the outsiders and stuff, but it's not as explicitly shown as the Dark Knight Rises does it. And so when he comes out of there, it's not this kind of like joyous occasion where you're like, yes, come on. I didn't feel like, go on, son, go in there.
Yeah.
Apart from aesthetically, it was cool because he puts the monkey mask on and
I felt that a little bit.
okay,
When
fair
you
enough.
got him punching the bag in time with the
And he got the
drums
money
and
when he was fighting. So
yeah,
yeah, I suppose so.
but
I just don't think it was as good.
yeah, but my point is, yeah, like I feel like I just want to see. Personally, I just want to see a bit more. I don't know. I guess with him, yeah, like accepting that he's probably going to die in this situation, him making peace with that. Obviously, he has. I can tell that he has nothing to lose. Like, like as I've come away from the film and I've thought about it more, like, yeah, the guy probably doesn't have anything to lose, and all he cares about is getting this revenge. But then I feel like, yeah, that you either have to have this moment of realization that just isn't fulfilling, or you have to have his acceptance and almost kind of happiness that this is going to be it. This is going to be the last thing that he does.
Well, it does imply that when he's walking, so the whole film has these littered scenes where he's walking with his mother, and that kind of ends with that. So it kind of like he's in the afterlife with his mother, kind of thing, and she's like been waiting for him. So there's that kind of element to it, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, if I don't know, I personally missed that. So if there is a scene in there where it's very obviously shown,
it's just before the fight.
He's now
it's just before the
just
fight.
Before the fight.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I guess if it's kind of like I don't know, like after he gets, I can't remember how he dies.
You wanted a book.
He gets stabbed, doesn't he?
You wanted exactly what I wanted. You wanted a bookend, right?
So he gets. Well, this is what I want to happen. So he gets stabbed. His life is kind of fading away, and then he can see his mum.
Gladiator.
He can see his mum like in front of him, and he's like going in and out of consciousness. He's like, he sees her, and she's like, "Oh, it's okay, come to me." And then he's like, "Oh, okay, it's cool. I'm going to be with mum." And then he does. But it was literally just like we were looking at each other. And we were just like, "Oh, is he falling? Did he die? Is he dying?" Like we weren't
dead.
sure. It just kind of happened, and then the film ended, and we were just like,
"He's a dead man."
Oh, yeah. That's my personal thoughts on the ending. Like, could have been polished a bit. Could have had a bit more context in there. Like, I'm all for subtext, reading between the lines, but I feel like I don't know. I feel like it could have had a bit more in there, just a smidge. Yeah.
So what did you just score? And why is it 3.5?
Yeah. Don't know where you got that number from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I feel, it had the potential to be a 4+.
Yeah.
But, pacing is very important in the film. And, it just, that ending just completely destroyed it for me. Personally. Like, sometimes you can get away with it, but I just, I just feel like they just went about that all wrong. I didn't really care about this political leader. Like, I kind of understood it, but I feel like with a storyline such as that, you either have to explain it or not really explain it, or you either have to go all in or not. So
especially if it's
so with Civil War, they don't explain the war at all. They don't have a political side per se. Like, that there's a civil war going on, but they don't. Don't explain it.
But if something's politically relevant in India,
yeah,
as a British viewer, you almost need a little bit more help with what's going on because you can't imply.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So I feel like I need a bit more.
Yeah,
just a bit more context.
I agree. That's where I fell.
Yeah, obviously you've got these flashback scenes with the guy in the car, and it slowly gets revealed that he's like essentially the big bad, the one who's giving the orders. But I don't know. I feel like him being in there as a character definitely takes away from it being, Dev Patel versus the police officer.
Yeah, 100%.
It definitely takes away.
Which is what it should have been, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Mine's a 3.5 as well. I think that there's some flashes of brilliance in there. I really enjoyed it. I was a bit bored. I think it was too long. I think that I, like you, could have been learn a bit more about the socio-political religious element of it, which I think could be quite interesting. You've done really well, which lost me kind of 3/4 of the way, and then you got like the Dark Knight Rises kind of copy, which I was less interested in, and a pretty satisfying fight at the end, which does end like that. I didn't mind it as much as you did, yeah, I'm excited for future stuff. Just look too dark. I look forward to seeing it again to see if just for me the picture was too dark, and I thought some of the camera movements were like so shaky. It like was like the Bourne Identity again.
Yeah, the cinematography was quite jarring. Some of the shots were done really
great. Yes,
some were really really nice.
And some of the fight sequence one take stuff was great. It was when things were moving too much that then I struggled a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. So our next section is called 2-minute reviews. We're finishing up. The reason why is because we talked for too long, and we need to make sure that we finish up with a strong. We
need to make sure that we have TikTok clips,
and we need to have TikTok clips, right? We need to have TikTok clips so we can have a short review of these things, and basically we get to pick 2 films each because it'll be 6 when there's 3 of us. 2 films each that you've watched over the week, or series that you've watched over the week that you feel compelled to talk about for 2 minutes. If you go over 2 minutes, we will shout at each other and we will fight to the death.
Okay.
Sound good? Shall I start? Because
can you please? Because this is the first I'm hearing about, and now I'm panicking. I'm on the spot.
I had a song. Damien and I have a song. It goes 2-minute reviews. 2-minute reviews. There you go.
I thought you were supposed to be a musician.
Okay. So I watched Baby Reindeer last week, and we watched. Alex and I watched it for an entire afternoon. Hyperbole. Don't use hyperbole. It's one of the best series I've ever seen in my life. I think it is the first time I've seen the assault of a man be put on the screen, and it be so real and so visceral and so interesting. I think it's funny. I think it's terrifying. I think it's emotional. There is a monologue scene where he talks about his trauma in the form of a stand-up comedy piece that he's doing, and it might be one of the best scenes I've ever seen in my life. Wow. I literally cried when I watched it. It is just so excellent. I cannot recommend it enough. There's something about these British. Have you seen The End of the Fucking World? There's a TV series on Netflix called It's the End. Yeah,
I've seen some of it. I didn't finish it.
So it's the same creators, but the director and writer is the person who experienced the stalking himself. So he experienced this whole thing himself, and he acts in it, and he directs it. It's incredible. The woman who plays the stalker does an amazing job. She's absolutely unhinged and mental. And there's some moments where you're like laughing at her because it's hilarious. There's some moments you're terrified of her because she's mental. And there's some moments you actually feel a bit sorry for her. I cannot believe it's not been spoken enough about. I'm just about to finish my 5 out of 5. It's amazing.
Wow.
It was amazing. I can't recommend it enough. Please watch it. Everyone, watch Baby Reindeer. It's amazing.
Okay. So, okay, cool. Right. Scoop. Scoop.
Have you got the scoop on it?
Scoop.
Such a bad joke.
Honestly, Scoop. I wouldn't say I had high hopes for it because I was expecting it to be quite boring, and it was probably one of the most boring films I've ever watched in my life. I do have a personal gripe for it for certain reasons.
Yeah, we're not playing into your bias here.
Yeah, like someone that I know that works on the film, and Netflix decided to spell his name wrong in the credits. It was shot, I think it finished filming just over a year ago. So it was very fresh off the Prince Andrew interview. I'm just like, why is this film being made? Like maybe in like a decade's time, perhaps. But, so the film itself, so it's about how the BBC got the interview for Prince Andrew, right? It was boring. Don't know why it's being made. The only saving grace was the performance of Rufus Sewell, I believe his name is, who played Prince Andrew. Very convincing, very scary. like very, very unnerving. I feel like his character was.
Lots of sweating.
Well, lack of sweating, but no, it was done. That was done really well. Like the makeup and also his likeness and the similarities. Like I've seen a clip where it's the interview and the recreation of the interview side by side. And his mannerisms are like almost the exact same. So that part's really good. But personally, I just found it so boring. I just didn't care about any of the characters. Obviously, you know what happens. You know they're going to get this interview, but you just don't really care. Like the main character's a bit egotistical, and you're just like, I don't really like you. But yeah, it's just there's just nothing there. It should have been a documentary, but it was turned into a feature film. But it should have just been a documentary, to be honest.
Score
2. That's what I gave on Letterboxd.
Desmond.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for your 2 + 2 + 2 minute review.
Well, it will be 2 minutes in the edit.
Because you'll edit that. Yeah. My final. I'm gonna cheat a bit. Do a double bill. Okay. I'm on a Guy Ritchie bender at the moment. I'm very much looking forward to the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. No, that sounds like something else.
No, that no. I know what you're saying. It's
the Ministry of Gentlemanly Warfare.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's it.
So I'm a big Guy Ritchie fan. I even liked his King Arthur film. Not gonna lie, I liked it. Give it a go. I watched Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, followed by Snatch. I enjoyed Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. It is a 4 for me. I forgot how raw it is. We talk about Dev Patel, but it's like really quite a raw film. It's a film that's really got some excellently authentic dialogue in it, and I think that's what it's really about. Really, you forget how much of a good actor Vinnie Jones is. He is a phenomenal, especially in those films. He's such a presence, and I think he's my favorite things in it. He's my favorite actor in it, and then you get Snatch. Now, Snatch is a good film. It is brilliant. It takes a while to get going, but once it does, and all the different kind of plot points kind of come together, I think it's fantastic. It is genuinely hilarious. I laughed so much in that, probably more than most comedy films that you see today. There's one scene where I just can't get, when they're trying to rob, they're robbing a place, and they're trying to get out, and they're trying to smash the door in. And when they finally give up because they've obviously been caught, Terrence, their getaway driver, opens the door on the other way around and goes, "What are you guys doing?" And it's just such a funny scene. Obviously, they didn't open the door the right way around, basically. But yeah, Brad Pitt's awesome as the Irish gypsy, who is basically supposed to rig fights for the butcher. Is he the butcher? The guy who has all the pigs, who's an amazing actor. He does a great job with it as well. There's just phenomenal performances all over the show. It's his best film. It's amazing. And if you haven't seen it in a while, I recommend you give it a crack again.
I've never seen it. I know.
Oh gosh, you'll love it. It's Guy Ritchie's best film, and 5 out of 5 for Snatch for me.
Have you seen
awesome.
Have you seen The Gentleman, the recent series?
Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that. I watched the film, and not as good as people say it is personally for me. But
I like the film. I like the film. It's too long.
Yeah, it's still good, but I mean, it's not that it's bad. I just don't enjoy that style of film where it's basically just exposition and you just explain.
You might not like Snatch and Lock, Stock that much.
I don't know. I'll always give it a go. I'm I appreciate different forms of films, but personally, that's just not the way that I would do things. I can still appreciate it and be like, "Oh, this is good," but
The Gentleman series starts brilliantly, but then it veers off. Once Guy Ritchie stops directing,
I don't even care.
Yeah, you liked it. Yeah,
the chicken scene alone just makes it.
Yeah, but that's at the start.
So
and the bishop from Liverpool.
You have to be.
What have you done to my brother? What have you done to my brother?
You have to be a chicken.
You have to be a chicken. I give the Gentleman series a 3.5. I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
And I give the Gentleman film the same. I think the Gentleman series first 2 episodes is a 4.5, and then it veers off into 3s. in my opinion.
Yeah.
It doesn't really know what to do after a while.
I mean, if it was possible, I'd give it a 3.75. But I'll go.
That's just being cheeky.
I'll go 3.5. Like, as series goes, I really enjoyed it, and I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. Fallout.
Oh, I want to watch it.
Yeah. Well, I won't give you spoilers, if I can help. But yeah, I mean, I've never played Fallout. You know, I'm not as much.
It looks great.
I'm not as much of a gamer as I used to be. But Fallout is pretty good.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. Like, again, 3.5 stars.
Pretty good.
as I gave everything 3.5 stars. Well, no, because I feel like.
Is this something you haven't given? Oh, you haven't given Scoop 3.5.
Yeah, that was a 2. We don't count that. Yeah, so as video game adaptations go, I think it's probably second to The Last of Us. I think, from what I've seen. So Halo, it's objectively good as a series, but they completely destroy the character of Master Chief, and that's why I personally don't like it, because I'm a big Halo fan. Blah blah blah. And then you've seen other things like Assassin's Creed. That film wasn't great, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. The story's good, the characters are good. It's a timeline in the Fallout universe that we haven't seen yet. I say I'm just done research on TikTok after I watched it. That's just my entire For You page now, stuff about Fallout and the games and the storylines and stuff like that. But yeah, great characters, great story, great soundtrack. Oh, the soundtrack is great. Like, it's
really,
yeah. Well, it's all I'm not going to start singing on this podcast.
I was supposed to say, I'll get my guitar out for you if you want.
It's really good. There's a lot of times kind of midway through where, I binge watched it with my mate, and I say binge watched it, we kind of watched like 2 or 3 episodes each night for a few days. And yeah, halfway through we didn't really know what was going on, but then the pieces started to come together towards the end. And there's like a kind of big, not like a twist because you're half expecting it, but you also think like, surely not, surely this guy hasn't done this. But no, it's really good. I would highly recommend.
Excellent.
It's shot really well, really crisp, looks nice. There's no terrible CGI in it or anything like that.
Yeah, I think the look of everything looks great. The robots look really cool as well.
The robots look cool. Makeup and hair is done really well. It's funny in places. You've really, it really brings you into this world, and you understand it very quickly as well. I think, like the world around, it's very not believable. Like, it's a fantasy world set in like 200 years in the future. But no, it's cool. We're
gonna give it a go.
It's good.
No, thanks, mate. And as the non-copyright music ascends into your ears increasingly, so does our podcast end today. Thanks, El. Well done. Great debut. We'll hopefully be seeing you next week, because we're back now. We're back.
Yeah.
We don't have any idea what we're going to be reviewing next week, so we'll let you know. See you next week.
Kung Fu Panda 4.
I'll just watch the Kung Fu Panda one and say it's like that. And
yeah.
Anyway, thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for putting up with me.
Hopefully, it'll be 3 of us next week.
Yeah.
Ready?